Yo, what is up, you guys? So in today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to make a pluck like this, the one you're hearing right now. So let's switch over to Ableton now. And so this is very similar to like a Tiesto blow your mind sort of pluck. So I'll show you the original real quick. So it sounds like this. And then my version sounds like this. So I haven't added in all the pitch bends and all that stuff. I actually extract MIDI from just like a little WAV file of the song. So, you know, that's an Ableton feature. If you didn't know, you just cut up the little part that you want to hear. You don't want to do this to the whole thing. It'll take forever. And then you just go to convert melody to a new MIDI track. And then usually it gives you sometimes pretty close MIDI or sometimes it's just way off. So that's what I used here. So I'm not going for a remake, just really wanted to show you a similar kind of pluck that I just quickly made just from tweaking a patch I already made. And the main idea of this is that why Sylenth is perfect for this kind of thing is because part A is really just the general pluckiness, the body of the sound really, and then part B is like the attack of the sound. So if we listen to part B, you're just gonna notice it sounds like an attack. So let's just play it from there. And then play part A. So that's more of the filtered out body of it. So, you know, that's actually why it's so easy to make these kind of things in Sylenth, because you can just make these different parts, combine them together, and then solo. So let me try to get through this quickly. So let's just start off in Sylenth, and Sylenth is the only thing you need for this since, as you can see right down here, it's all done in Sylenth. So let's start off by initializing this. So initialize down here, and then we'll just start off in part A. So you probably notice I have Mont Legato off for this, which you might think you would use for this kind of one finger lead sort of thing, but I kind of just prefer, you know, I don't really like how legato really stretches things out or doesn't leave enough spacing in between, so I just like the polyphonic behavior of it. So I'm gonna leave that off. So that's why I'll have 16 voices on this. If you want Mont Legato, you don't even need to worry about voicing. Just leave it at 1 or 3 or whatever. So Oscillator 1 part A, we're gonna set this to 5 voices. A saw is a go-to most of the times for these kind of plucky things. And we're gonna bring the phase to around 18.8 degrees, a little bit of detuning at 1.35, stereo up all the way as well as volume. And then we're gonna pan this oscillator -3, and then the second oscillator in part A, we're going to pan +3. So, you know, they'll be basically left and right, kind of far away from each other to create a more wider stereo image and more interesting sound to listen to. And I also have a little bit of fine tuning on this. That's optional if you want that. I just kind of like adding little things like that. So this is at -0.04. And let's also notice that there's no retrig on these. I don't want any of this stuff to retrig. So we're just going to continue on to the amp envelope. So I'm just going to go following the Sylenth layout. So amp envelope of part A, we're going to leave the attack, or we're going to bring the attack to 0.2, decay up all the way, sustain pretty high around 6.28. Again, this is like the body, so I want it to sustain a little bit. And the release around 2.4. Now let's go to Oscillator 2. So I'm going to bring this up an octave, select a tri-saw so that I'm not just stacking saws. I feel like a tri-saw will round this out a little bit more and kind of fill in different gaps, and I think it's a nicer blend than just saw, you know? So 8 voices here. We're going to bring the volume down a bit, so because it's up a octave, it's a little bit brighter and higher, so, you know, just kind of want to blend it down by bringing the volume down to around 4.24. Phase also on this at 12.89 degrees, detune at 2.27, and again the pan is like +3, and no fine tuning here, no retrig. So now let's continue to the filters. So the filters are really important to this, and one of the things about the sound is it's got a very rezo-y, it has a very rezo like quality to it. So without the rezo this high up, you just won't get the same like characteristic of it. So the rezo is going to be around 7. Drive is at 5.86, so kind of driving to the point where it's getting quieter because it's so driven, but I kind of like that here. So again, we're gonna set this to low pass, 24 dB slope. Cutoff is right down the middle where it is by default at 139 hertz around there. And let's just do the filter control here. So that's like the filter that controls part A and part B's filter. So we're gonna set that to around 2.71 hertz. Reso slightly up at 0.86. A little bit a lot of key tracking, so that's kind of optional to you. I like key tracking in this case. So that's gonna be around 7.52. Warm drive is on. So let's go to part B and then I'll go to effects and the mod envelopes and all that. So part B, like I said, is our attack. So I did weird things because again, I just tweaked a patch I already made. So it's actually, I tweaked it so much that's not even, it doesn't even sound like the original patch, but yeah, so you're gonna ignore like the detuning that there was or phase. I think I had phase and detuning on this. We don't need any of that. We should just have one voice because this is just a noise oscillator. So we're just gonna put the noise here, bring the volume down to around 5.19, up an octave because I do want it a little bit brighter. Again, not really so noticeable noise, but I just, for my OCD and the way that I think of it, it should work if I make it a little bit brighter by bringing it up an octave. But it's hard to tell with noise. Now let's continue to the amp envelope. So we're gonna bring the attack all the way down, decay around 4.34, and sustain all the way down, release at 2.4. So I'm going fast. You can just pause. I just like to go fast. And part B here. So we're gonna set this to a boop. My alarm was going off. We're gonna set this to a Q pulse. So just like a really short square wave. 5 voices, invert and retrigger on, because again, this is kind of like, I want a clickiness out of this. I want an attack out of this. So I want the retrig on so that it always sounds the same every time I retrigger it. So that's why the retrigger has to be on here and off basically everywhere else. So that way, certain things of the sound will sound slightly different, but some things will stay the same. So we want that with our attack. And so full volume here, phase, detune, stereo are all where they are by default, as well as pan. And it looks like there's the slightest amount of fine tuning here at 0.03, but I don't think you really need it that much. So let's go to the filter B. So low pass, 12 dB slope, no drive. Reso is up at 6.24. Again, yeah, even with the attack, you just notice a huge difference and gain a certain likeness of these kind of more popular type plucks just with Reso. Reso is like a big part of like, not when you don't want to distort something, but you still want it to sound kind of big and stuff. Sometimes a Reso like will just beef it up in a nice spot. So again, that correlates with the cutoff position. So the cutoff is around 213.66 hertz. And that's, I think I mentioned this, but this is on the 24 dB slope, low pass. And so that's part B. So let's continue to the mod envelope. So we're actually not going to need mod envelope 2 or LFO 1. Those are just from when I pulled up this patch. As you can see, those two parameters are zeroed out, so they're not doing anything. So we only need to look at mod envelope 1 and LFO 2. So we're going to just select a cutoff A and B here. Set the amount to 1.71. So this is a very common technique with plucks. You just, you put the cutoffs pretty low, and then you envelope or modulate those cutoffs to come up and introduce the higher frequencies. So that's just like a popular thing to do with plucks. So generally, you'll look at an envelope that looks like this with low attack, decay around 3. So anywhere from 1 to 3 usually is the range. So 3.11 in this case. No sustain because I don't want it to sustain out. But a long release because I thought it sounded a little bit better than the typical short release for this kind of thing. So at 6.77, that's where I set the release. Again, the amount here is 1.71. And let's ignore this envelope and this LFO because they're not doing anything. And let's just set a phase A and B onto LFO 2. or LFO1 if you want to put it there, it really doesn't matter. And we're going to set that amount to 2.48. The rate is 1/8 triplet. The gain is at 1.9, and this is a triangle and no offset. So you know, that's just something I kind of noticed and I like to do. So it's up to you if you want to do that. The bend range is at 4 because I feel like with these kind of things, it sounds better to pitch bend them. But going the full octave down or full octave up is maybe too much, especially if you want to play this and record your pitch bend with it. So, you know, when you go too far low, it just sounds like a really obvious thing. And to get that more glidiness, you know, with your finger and the pitch bend, you got to set it kind of low. So I set it to 4. And the portamento over here is at 3.43. Mon legato is off, and this is on a slide. So, you know, again, to get more of a glidey sort of thing. And let's finish off with the effects. So this is mostly supposed to be a clean sound, something that doesn't sound distorted or anything like that, but a little bit of distortion just to give it a little bit of crisp and edge. So I like the fold back for that when I'm trying to be subtle with it. And the amount is pretty low, around 1.71. Dry wood is up all the way. A little bit of EQ. I suggest you do this to whatever fits your mix. I really didn't adjust the EQ from what this patch was and what it is now, so I'll just shout out my settings anyway if you're curious. The bass is all the way down, the bass frequency is all the way up, treble is at 9.21 dB, and the treble frequency is around 766.08 hertz. So let's move on to delay. I said that in the most weird way ever. It's okay though. Let's move on. So the delay, let's just cut through this super fast. So all these 3 parameters are here: the spread, the feedback, the width. Those are where they are by default. All you need to do is bring up the smear to 1.33, bring the dry wet to around 18%, and high cut is going to be around 15,000 hertz, and the low cut will be around 74 hertz, and the right side delay is actually going to be quite longer. So that's going to be a 1/4D, and the left side will be 1/8. So I'll go over that again because I'm sure somebody missed it. 1/8 for the left and 1/4D for the right. So let's move on to the reverb. So I suggest use a third-party reverb just so you're not losing so much of your dry sound. But I just wanted to keep this as much inside of Sylenth as I could. So, you know, I wouldn't have to make this video longer than it should be. So again, these are the reverb settings I will use, but I suggest you just turn off the reverb and use a like a reverb bus or something like that. Use a good reverb. You know, that's really where you get a lot of the quality that you notice in production. So the dry wet is at 52%, so I'm just cranking it too high. There's no pre-delay, no damp. Those are all the way down. The width is all the way up, and size is at 6.59. And then I kind of heavily compress this. Not really, the threshold is not too far low, but the ratio is around 6.36.1, so around 6 basically. The threshold is -16. Attack is, I think, all the way down, or I think I brought it slightly up. I was trying to get it around 1 millisecond, so I put it at 0.6 to get it close to 1 millisecond. I really didn't want to compress the beginning attack too much. I wanted to just get it right after. So maybe I would suggest 1.53. I don't really give a shit at this point. You know, I'll adjust it later. And the release is at 66.74 milliseconds. So that's where it is by default. So that's all the effects, everything I did. Very basic, you know, it's just kind of the mentality of, you know, I'll just make one sort of sound in part A, and then like put an attack of that in part B, and then just combine those together, and it's really simple. And this is a MIDI for it if you're curious. Again, you could just, you know, extract it from the song if you wanted to. This actually might be more helpful if I could get it out of this. There we go. I forgot how to use Ableton quick sec, and there you go. So thanks guys for watching, and of course I'll be doing more videos. Maybe not as much this week because I'll be a little bit busy. So thanks guys for watching as always, and lates.